The proposed budget for science for 2026 in the United States is out, and the news are not good. Welcome back to Boring Astronomy. I'm Alessandro, your astronomer next door.
Boring astronomy.
In case you're wondering, I'm Alessandro. I have been in astronomy for the past 20 years, and I'm here to share with you some of the things that I've learned. It's going to be complicated to make this video without becoming too political, but 2 days ago, the proposed budget for science for 2026 in the United States was published. And there's very bad news for science, so it is important to share this news and analyze what's going on. Even for people not living in the US or working in the US, this is important because astronomy or science in general is nowadays a global endeavor. So you cannot assume that something does not affect you. Let's make the example of organizing a barbecue. If someone says that they are bringing the meat, you're not going to bring more meat. You may want to bring the bread or the potatoes so that you complement each other. And this is really what's happening here. And this is particularly true for space missions. A ground-based observatory takes about 10-20 years to be built, and for a space mission, depending on the importance of the space missions, we're in the ballpark of 20-30 years. So switching off a big space mission today, it means that that space mission is going to be replaced eventually in 30 years. So possibly the thing that mostly impressed and mostly made to the news, NASA. This is a post shared on Twitter by the Planetary Society, and they are adjusting by inflation. And if this proposal goes through, this is the smallest budget for NASA since 1961. Basically since before JFK said the famous sentence, "We're going to the moon by the end of the decade." On the same post, the Planetary Society explains that there's 41 space science projects proposed for cancellation, and 1/3 of NASA's productive science portfolio which is going to be shut. This figure, which was shared on Blue Sky yesterday, is even more clear. This is the timeline of space observatories by NASA. Basically, we are here in 2025. Sphere X has just been launched, and we are expecting Roman to be launched the next year. Everything which is crossed is what is not going to be kept alive. Mind you that the things which are kept alive, it means that yes, operation will keep going, but all the science stuff and all the technical stuff is going to be reduced by somewhere between 40 and 60%. It is nice and somewhat symbolic that Hubble is being considered for survival. Webb, because it was launched just a few years ago, obviously is still funded. Sphere X and Roman, they were really risking, but Sphere X has been saved literally because it had just been launched, and Roman because it's just way too ready and they have spent already way too much money. But US contribution to LISA, UVEX, Ariel, those things are gone or may go. One part of this image that I want to address is the cancellation of Chandra, Swift and Fermi. Chandra is the main X-ray imager in space. Without Chandra, we end up without an X-ray imager in space. And without Fermi and Swift, the whole science topic of gamma ray bursts is cancelled. So there is a whole community which just cannot work anymore. And as I was saying before, to replace these satellites is going to take 10 to 20 years. It literally means one or more generation of scientists without doing research in this specific field. From the point of view of many communities, this is a disaster, and it's exactly the barbecue example that I gave before. When communities decide their decadal plan or their future plan, they take into account what other actors are working on. So many communities have been considering that it was not important to develop new all-sky gamma-ray detectors, basically because Fermi and Swift, they were still operational. If Fermi and Swift get cancelled next year, we have nothing to do. We are not ready to react. I normally don't speak much about human exploration of space, but it is worth mentioning the Artemis project, which is supposed to bring humans back to the moon and eventually use the moon as a platform to go to Mars. Well, it turns out that even the Artemis project is in grave danger. So a significant part of the project is defunded, and some people were already considering the budget too limited and the scheduling too aggressive. So I really wonder what's going to happen next. If the situation is bad for NASA, for ground-based astronomy, the situation is terrible. We go from $10 billion to $4 billion. And there's a series of facilities which are in serious risk. The Vera Rubin Observatory, which literally had its first light just a few months ago and is going to show these beautiful first lights on the 23rd of June for me who I'm recording, in 22 days. This beautiful telescope, which took almost 20 years to build, is going to be subject to a significant budget cut. So this means significantly less people working for it, with all the problems that such a massive project will encounter with less people. One of the beautiful things of US astronomy is the involvement in the Gemini Observatory. This is an observatory made of two identical telescopes, 8-meter telescopes, one in Hawaii, one in Chile. So covering the whole sky with these two beautiful identical telescopes. The budget cut is so big that they are considering suspending operation in one of the two sites. And then there are two historical sites, Kitt Peak and the Cerro Tololo Inter-American Observatory. Kitt Peak is one of the historical astronomical observatories, and from my perspective, Cerro Tololo is one of the observatories that is really close to my heart, because it's the first observatory where I went to observe myself. This is the Blanco telescope, which performed the Dark Energy Survey project, and the telescope I was observing with was a 1-meter telescope, which is just behind this image. And these observatories may just be shut down altogether. And finally, there's LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational-Wave Observatory. This became famous a few years ago when they detected for the first time gravitational waves and ended up with a Nobel Prize. LIGO has two sites, and again, according to the current plans, one of the two sites may be shut down, which means that instead of the 4 detectors that we have nowadays, the 2 LIGOs, Virgo and Cagra, we may end up having only 3, which reduces significantly our ability to identify the position of gravitational waves. Less investment, less facilities, less researchers, it means smaller development for astronomy worldwide, not only in the United States. This is an issue which affects all of us astronomers, and this is very, very worrying. The ball now is in the field of the US Congress, and we really hope that there is going to be a significant change in this budget, because as it is now, it is significantly damaging not only for US science, but for science worldwide. Please, this time, don't only click on like and subscribe. This time, share this video and talk to your colleagues, talk to your friends, explain that we cannot abandon astronomy. We have a train running fast, and if you pull on the brakes now, starting this train again is going to take a long, long time. Thank you very much. Talk to you next time.